let's talk about the ridiculous Netflix walkout over Dave Chappelle's The Closer special, in which he declared himself to be Team Turf while defending J.K. Rowling. We won't reiterate this, so let's go on to the next one. This was well received among comedians. One black comedian said he freed the slaves with this Netflix special. The comedians being the slaves to PC culture. Literally says we're slaves to PC culture.
Yeah.
Must ring a bell. And you went to see him last night, in fact, didn't you?
Last night, yeah. Look, there's me. Free tickets, because I'm also problematic and I got cancelled for transphobia. So there's me and Darius Davies, going to see Dave Chappelle.
Was it a good show?
Yeah, it was a good show.
Good. Right, and so basically the Netflix CEO was like, right, I've got the world's most successful stand-up comedian, or I have a bunch of angry transgender activists who work at my company. Who am I going to side with? And obviously he was like, well, the money's with Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
And so he sent around a memo to Netflix on Monday saying, well, look, stop whining, basically. We know that a number of you have been angry, disappointed and hurt by a decision to put Dave Chappelle's latest special on Netflix. With The Closer, we understand that the concern is not about offensive to some content, but titles that would increase real-world harm. Last year, we had similar concerns about 365 Days and violence against women. While some employees disagree, we have a strong belief that content on screen doesn't directly translate to real-world harm. That's only because that's supported by science.
Yeah. And also, what about cuties?
Well, I mean, like we were saying before the podcast, the Netflix staff probably supported that.
Yeah.
But anyway,
they masturbated over it.
I cannot confirm nor deny, but
100% categorically state that all the blue-haired freaks masturbated over cuties.
I know where I'd put my bet if I was making one. He says what we object to is the harm that the content. This is a Netflix employee called Tara Field posted on Twitter. What we object to is the harm that content does to the trans community, especially trans people of color, and very specifically black trans women.
So why is it specific to black trans people?
I have no idea. Well, actually, I do know. It's because the majority of murders of trans people is in the black community. Care to hazard a guess why?
Is it because of sort of unprogressive values?
Yeah, and surprises. So if you go to a nightclub, you pick up a very beautiful woman, and it's not.
Yeah.
Well,
you're home now, so.
So anyway,
get stuck in.
They carry on saying, make no mistake, Chappelle's alleged jokes do not impact hypothetical people. They in fact cause real harm to transgender and non-binary viewers and black LGBTQ youth who may once have looked up to him as a role model, says queer author and attorney Preston Mitchum. Prove it.
And also, if you watch the show, he's not advocating any harm against trans people. He talks with great empathy and love for a transgender friend of his who actually committed suicide after being hounded by trans rights activists. So really? not being hounded by terrorists, but being hounded by trans rights activists because she was friends with Dave Chappelle.
Well, there we go. And so they point out that, a study has shown that on-screen violence doesn't correlate with violence in the real world, but the trans campaigners are like, but there are the highest rate of trans murders since these killings were being tracked in 2013, and so this is Netflix's fault. Spoiler alert, there's no proof that it's Netflix's fault. And Sarandos went on to say that Netflix is working hard to ensure marginalized communities aren't defined by a single story, and that they're increasing diversity on the content team itself with titles such as Sex Education, Orange is the New Black, Control Z, and the stand-up of Hannah Gadsby as companions to Chappelle's special on the service. And
you see... No, in fact, I think the next slide is...
if we can get to the next one, it is Hannah Gadsby screaming and moaning like a child over this.
Fuck you and your immoral algorithm.
That's exactly it, yeah. Just a quick note to let you know, I'd prefer if you didn't drag my name into your mess. It's like, why? This is good news for you. You're going to go viral over this.
And the thing I loved about this was she complained. She's all like, you didn't pay me enough.
Yeah, that was exactly right.
Yeah, you didn't get paid that much because you're not as popular as Dave Chappelle. You know what I mean?
Now I have to deal with even more of the hate and anger that Dave Chappelle's fans like to unleash on me every time Dave gets $20 million to process his emotionally stunted partial worldview. You didn't pay me nearly enough with the real world consequences of the hate speech dog whistling you refuse to acknowledge, Ted. F you and your amoral algorithm cult. I do S's with more backbone than you. That's just a joke. I definitely didn't cross a line because you told the world there isn't one.
It's not
seething and dilating.
It's not that good a joke. But honestly, like Hannah Gadsby, I watched Nanette, like her breakthrough special that was supposed to be so amazing, and it was like I forced myself to watch it to the end. There's quite a gripping, interesting bit when she's talking about the abuse she received. But the first half that's supposed to be the superlative stand-up, it was just awful. It was jokes like, people say laughter's the best medicine. I think it's penicillin. It's like, man, that is like
God.
It's like a Christmas cracker joke from like 1982.
Yeah.
It's not even a new Christmas cracker joke.
God,
and for her to complain about not getting paid enough when she's been paid millions, absolutely millions. And like, also, that's the free market. It's like when people complain that women's footballers aren't paid enough. It's like, well, go and buy a season's ticket to watch women's football then. But you won't, because it's rubbish. And same with this. Nobody's watching the net because it's rubbish. They'll all crow about it. They'll say on Instagram, I live in the net. I'm not actually going to watch it.
But let's go to the next one, John, because comedian David Darris pointed this out.
For this.
Go on, can you summarize it quickly?
Would turn the noise up. It's only 10 seconds.
Okay, go on.
Turn the noise up.
It's like we're all human at the end of the day. So I thought it was very funny. There was a few bits that weren't funny, but the same people would tell you that Dave Chappelle, the closer, wasn't funny, are the same people that will straight face look you in the eye and say that Nanette is the greatest comedy special of all time, when we know for a fact Nanette is drizzling shit.
I think both have like comedic value, but
No,
you have to
you're
agree
wrong.
with the
Radu, I'll kick you off the podcast. No, Radu, no.
I feel like
Nanette has no comedic value. Nanette is shit.
So I can't.
No, listen.
Okay, well.
So that's Darius Davies and the podcast we do together called Three Speech Podcast. And he's right, man. I remember Darius posted saying, like, he posted, man, it was so funny. So Darius is a comedian as well, and he posted on Facebook, he's like, how come it's all the shit unfunny comedians who think Nanette is good, who think Hannah Gadsby's funny?
It's a really great question.
Like, all these like shit comedians posted it, Nanette was funny. Like, Darius just like, yeah, you're shit. You're
Point
proving
proven.
my point.
Yeah.
So
a black trans person came out and defended Dave Chappelle. Someone called Flame Monroe is a black transgender comedian. Says, as a comedian, I don't want this to be censored. I think nothing is off limits. The world has become too censored. Yeah. There's 3 dogs I have in this fight. As a comedian, I don't want to be censored. As a trans woman, I want equality. As a black person, I want fair treatment in this country, or that we've been trying to get for 400 years. All of this, what you can or cannot say is ridiculous. I absolutely do not think the special should be taken down. I think the great Dave Chappelle what he's done is opened up a forum to have a real conversation between the heterosexual and gay community. There is no heterosexual community.
There's no gay community either. I mean, this idea of like putting people like, oh, you've got this, it's like a chicken eating community.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? Like everybody's an individual.
Yeah. Anyway, so the Netflix social media team took to social media and complained about this, saying, to be clear, as queer and trans people who run this account, you can imagine that the last couple of weeks have been hard. And so they complained about that and said they were going to organise a boycott. And so there was a Netflix walkout. If we can get to the next one. Amid cheers and chants of Team Trans.
I think it was more of a mince out than a walkout.
I think that's probably true. Dozens of Netflix employees minced out of a company office in Los Angeles on Wednesday, protesting Chappelle, carrying signs that read, "Hey, Netflix, do better," and "Transphobia is not a joke." I beg to differ. The employees, you think you can make jokes about anything. I got in trouble once, right? Yeah. Because I was asked on like Sky News or something, and they're like, do you think racist jokes are funny? I was like, some of them, because they're jokes. But they're like, yeah, but they're racist. Yeah, but they could still be funny. Yeah. Because that's the point of a joke. Yeah. Anything could be funny. But anyway.
Yeah, and I've heard that from black comedians as well. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, racist jokes can be horrible and can be cruel. Sure.
But Dave Chappelle's actually a great example of this. I love his white guy voice. Yeah, when he does his white guy voice, that's a racist joke. That's fine. Yeah, yeah. That's hilarious.
Yeah, and he even did last night. He did a joke. It was very funny about that could be conceived as racist. Certainly would be racist about black people in Britain. He said it's not a black guy. He said it's not the same as in America, like, because he saw a black guy riding a bike with like cut flowers in the basket. You didn't get that in Detroit.
So anyway, Joey Soloway, the creator of Amazon Prime series Transparent, urged Netflix executives to add a transgender person to its corporate board and the entertainment industry as a whole to begin significantly hiring more transgender people.
Well, why didn't they somebody on the board can just be like, yeah, I'm a woman. You know what I mean?
Checkmate.
Because apparently that's all you need to do. Yeah, I'm a woman.
But the thing is as well, like, there aren't that many trans people in existence. So they can't just be like, right, we're going to hire loads and loads of trans people because there just aren't that many.
Well, I'm a trans. Honestly, like now that it's becoming like it's so easy to become a woman, and also everybody needs to hire a transgender. I'm a woman.
If we ever get called here about diversity quotas, well, I'm happy to transition. Anyway,
then you
so
got 2 women.
Exactly. So another person was complaining, of course, but the protest was met with a counter protest. It's may as well watch some of this because I
like jokes.
I agree with this counter protest. Let's play it.
We like jokes. We like jokes.
What do we want?
We like jokes.
Stop that there, John. So the irony of this, of course, is that the trans protesters are literally saying jokes aren't funny.
Yeah.
I mean, that was literally their point. Transphobic jokes aren't funny. It's like, well, it depends.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, people were complaining about this. But if we can get the link up, John, just to show the next one, you can see, Dave is funny, jokes are funny, and that chap there with the jokes are funny sign is a YouTuber called Vito. He's all right. He's like a sort of centrist, I guess would say, YouTuber.
Right.
He does movie reviews and stuff like that. He seems like a decent chap, and he got harassed and intimidated by this very sane crowd. If we can play the next clip.
Why is he breaking my sign? Why is he breaking my sign?
That's a big man.
Yeah. Free speech rights is all of you. Oh, look, there's such a fire. He's got a weapon. He's got a weapon. He's got a weapon. He's got a weapon. Oh, do you want me to drop my weapon? Yes. Okay, and leave. There's my weapon.
We're not trying to have any discussion.
I'm not discussing anything.
You're talking about
Excellent shirt there, you see there.
Yeah. Obviously, somebody's earning about that.
I'm just here to say that jokes are funny, people. Dave Chappelle is a funny guy. I love Dave. I don't know why all the violence. I don't know why all the hate. I just love Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle. Hey, it's support my reality. Dave Chappelle. They took my stick. My stick. They took it. My side. I need my poster board. It was $2.99.
I think you can stop it there. Just you can see the quality of people that are involved with this.
Yeah.
But this is important for some reason.
Do we have the video of the big Tonka truck? Oh man, there's like
No.
one of oh man, I don't know if we've got time to
We
grab it.
haven't. Let me carry on because we're running out of time.
All
So the Netflix employees have produced a list of demands. Create a new fund to specifically develop trans and non-binary talent. Increased investment in trans and non-binary content on Netflix comparable to our total investment in transphobic content. So pay them as much as they pay Dave Chappelle. What they're asking.
But he's not transphobic.
Well, that's where you're wrong, in their opinion. They say invest in multiple trans creators to make both scripted and unscripted programs, revise internal processes on commissioning and releasing potential harmful, sensitive content, hire trans and non-binary content executives, especially BIPOC, in leading positions, recruit trans people, especially BIPOC, for leadership roles in the company, eliminate references or imagery of transphobic titles or talent inside of the workplace.
I bet there's none.
Fire a bunch of transphobes, acknowledge the harm that Netflix's responsibility for this harm from transphobic content, and in particular harm to the black trans community, which has never been demonstrated.
Fire transphobe. So basically, transphobe is now just a magical word like witch that you can just say at someone and they'll get fired.
Yeah, exactly. Prove you're not a witch. Well, how do
Yeah.
I do that?
Yeah. Prove
Literally,
you're not transphobic.
I'm not casting a spell, am I?
Yeah, prove you're not transphobic. You'd be like, well, I've never, I haven't done anything.
I've
It's
never
like,
phobed a trans in my life. I don't know what.
Perceive you to be transphobic.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
And of course, they want to add a disclaimer before transphobic titles that specifically flags transphobic content, misogyny, homophobia, hate speech, etc. And then suggest trans-affirming content alongside and after content flagged
that
as
sounds
anti-trans.
hilarious. Trans-affirming content. Let's hear your hilarious trans-affirming
Well, it's
joke.
Hannah
You know what
Gadsby,
I mean?
isn't it?
Yeah. God.
And so you would have thought that this would have just been a bunch of people who got fired, because that's what I would have done if I were the person in charge of Netflix. But instead, the Netflix boss has collapsed over this, and he on the eve of he didn't even wait for the protest to take place. The day before, he was like, "I screwed up that internal communication. I screwed it up in multiple ways. I should have done this. I should have done that." It's like, no, you should have fired these people and never taken them seriously in the first place. Right?
And now you should quit for being a pussy.
Yeah. Yes, you should. But he says, of course, storytelling has a real impact in the real world. I reiterate that because why I work here, and that's what we do. That's why we do what we do. That impact can be hugely positive and can be quite negative. Okay, so you accepting that Dave Chappelle is causing trans people in the black community to die? Well, because that's the allegation.
Yeah.
There's no causal link, and that's what they're claiming.
Yeah.
And so he still stands on his like, well, I don't think it intends to cause physical harm. I don't think it's hate speech. It's like, well, you've accepted all of their premises, and so now you've conceded the ground.
Yeah.
These people were right, and you were wrong.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full thing at 1 p.m. every weekday at lotuseaters.com, or you can sign up to get access to all the premium content we have on the site.
Yeah, we've got loads of really good stuff. Every week we have a Contemplations and Epochs episode that goes up, and in the Contemplations we talk about just interesting things, and the Epochs episodes are probably my favourite because I love talking about history. This latest one is we're doing a bit of a series on the 100 Years' War and why England kept winning. And we've not finished it yet, and you're going to really enjoy the end of that one. But we've also got other excellent episodes that we do, like the book club. The most recent one was Shooting an Elephant by George Orwell. This was about his time in Burma as a colonial officer, and when he was tasked with the shooting of a rampaging elephant. And it's really, really interesting what the circumstance of the thing was. But we also have lots of other content, such as premium articles, which have audio tracks on them for our silver and gold subscribers. And we do premium podcasts about things that we don't really feel that we can put on YouTube or have done a particularly large amount of research into. And so it's worth keeping them slightly more private. And we also do lots of very interesting interviews, such as this one with comedian Steve Hughes, which was really fascinating because I didn't expect him to be a philosopher. But anyway.
Yeah. Also, the last thing to mention is the live event content we have. So we occasionally, when we get around to it, doing our live events, and the videos from them are on the website as premium, of course, because people came to see and paid. So go and check that out. This is on the worst of critical race theory.
Yes.
And I do mean the worst.
It's unconscionable.
Yeah. So if you'd like access to all that premium content, go to lotuseaters.com and subscribe. Thank you and goodbye.